Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley, and I'm here today to show how to use my new Simon Hurley Create Zesty stamp set and coordinating lemon branch stencil. I love this set because it's got a bunch of amazing lemon themed images in it, and that lemon branch there fills a card really nicely. And this lemon branch stencil you can purchase separately, layers together to create that beautiful coloring. So to start off my card, I'm taking that large lemon branch stamp and I'm going to place it on an acrylic block, and then I'll stamp it down onto some stark white cardstock using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. This gives such a great impression, and I love all the little stippled details in this image. Then I'll throw over a layer of clear heat embossing powder and heat set that until it's clear and shiny, and I just love the finish that this gives to give that shine, but it also protects the black ink to make sure it's not going to smudge at all. Moving into the lemon branch stencil, they have engravings on them to make sure you know kind of how to follow it and also to make sure you have it in the right orientation. So if you can read it, you know you got it the right way. Then I'm going to use my Make Art Station and I'm going to line up the first part of my stencil. Here I'm using the branch, and then I'm going to do some blending. Now I like to mask off some sections. If you want to make sure that your blending doesn't go outside of the stencil, a little bit of masking tape can be helpful. Then I'll go in with some blending brushes and blend in my color. I find that with smaller details, especially like this little branch area, it's helpful to go in with blending brushes because they can get into those little details with all the different bristles. Then I'll move on into the next layer of the stencil, again making sure I can read the engraving to make sure it's the right way, and then I'll line it up with the lemons and place it down on my Make Art Station. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of Shooting Star Simon Hurley Create ink. I love this super bright lemon yellow color. It's going to look great to shade this. Now I also want to mention that even though this is just one layer for the lemons, you can go in with several different colors. So here I brought in Slippery and Wet, which is a little bit darker, and I'm just going to shade the top half of the lemon to give it a little bit of depth and dimension. And you can do this with each layer to give it some more shading. So look at those awesome lemons once they're all blended. Then I'll move into the second stencil, which has two sections of leaves on it. This first top section, I'm going to line up with all of the leaves, and then I can move into blending it down with some greens. Here I used a little bit of Overzealous and a different blending brush to blend in the color on top of these leaves. Again, if I want to, I can make one end of the leaves a little bit darker and leave one end a little bit lighter to give it some shading. Then I'm going to lift off the stencil and we'll move on to the second layer. This layer covers some of the leaves and it's going to give some depth and dimension by shading half of them. So it just gives a little bit of life to it, making it look like some of those leaves are curled up. And for this layer, I use a little bit of a darker color green. For this one, I'm going in with some Fake Plant, which is a super nice dark rich color, and it's going to give some awesome shading to that. Check it out. So I love how easy it was to just go in there with that stencil set, and it gives you some very nice realistic looking coloring rather than having to go in and stay inside those lines. Then to finish this off, I'm going to fussy cut it out. I'm using my Fiskars Spring Assist scissors. I find these are super helpful for fussy cutting because they spring back out at you so your hands won't get tired, and they're also really good at getting into some of the little details on this image. Whenever I fussy cut, I leave a little bit of a white border because I find that it helps to help the image stand out on your card, and also it's easier if you make a little bit of a mistake, it's not as noticeable. So then once I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to my card base. Here I'm using some Gina K tomato soup colored cardstock. I'm going to score it in half to create a top folding A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Then I'm going to create a nice background, which is going to be tone on tone, but you'll see the awesome shine it has. I'm using the tiny circle stencil from Simon Hurley Create. I love this one just to add lots of texture to backgrounds. It's a nice necessity to have in your collection. I'm going to tape this down onto a glass mat. I like to use a glass mat or a craft sheet here because things are going to get a little bit messier. I want kind of a tone-on-tone subtle background, so I'm going in with some Lunar Paste in a similar color. This one's called Bee Sting. The Lunar Paste is from Simon Hurley Create, and it has this beautiful shine and bold, intense color to it. So I'm just going to place it down onto my glass mat in kind of a thin application, and then I'm going to go in with my sponge blending tool. Now this texture paste can be applied with a palette knife if you want a lot more texture, but here I wanted it to be nice and smooth and just give lots of shine and intense color. I'm going in with my sponge blender and just going in circular motions like I would blend in ink all the way across the stencil. Now once I'm done with my background, I'm going to pick up any of that excess color from my glass mat, put it back in the jar, you can use that over again, and then I'm going to quickly do some cleaning. Now this is a water-based product, so you can easily clean it off while it's still wet with water. So I'm just spraying my stencil and cleaning that off, And then with the blending sponge tool, you also want to spray that with water or detach it and take it underneath the sink. You want to clean that completely clean until it turns back to white. If you leave that in there to dry, it's going to become kind of crusty and crunchy and unusable. So make sure to clean things out right away. But then once that's nice and dry, which only takes a matter of minutes since you applied it so thin, it gives this beautiful shine, and since it's kind of a tone-on-tone color, I love the background. I've added some foam tape to the back of my lemon branch to give it some dimension, and then I'm going to adhere it right into the center of my card. Like I said, this is a nice large image, and I love that you can finish this off as a nice focal point. Then with the stamp set, I'm going to pick a sentiment. I love the sentiments in this set, and I usually bring around the clear sheet to kind of pick what sentiment's going to fit best. Here I chose the sentiment that says, "You're the zest," and I'm going to stamp that down with the same black ink, and then I'll throw over a layer of clear heat embossing powder to finish it off. Then I'll heat set that until it's nice and clear and shiny, and I'll add it down to the card. I love how this card is finished off. That tone-on-tone background, but with the bold shimmer, is beautiful, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how to use that lemon branch stencil with the zesty stamp set to create this beautiful finished colored effect.